Hey, welcome back to God's Glory and Men's Real Stories. I am your host, Robert Moore III, and I'm excited that you would join us today for another great episode. So if you're new to this community, I want you to know that you matter here and your story matters, no matter what chapter you're in. So today, I want you to sit back with a community that cares about you in hopes that you feel God's love as well as see God's glory in men's real stories. So, my special guest today is a brother whose leadership and wisdom have grabbed my attention, as well as many others who need to be encouraged on their journey as he continues to serve many by balancing his commitment to his family and pouring into others. I'm excited he took the time out to sit with me today, and I would like to welcome Dustin Stradley to the episode. How you doing, brother?
Hey, honored to be here, man.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's an honor to be able to sit across from you, even though we're in two different areas, but still be able to sit across from you and just be able to just truly get to know who you are and tap into your story based on the parts that I do know about you, and then so many things that I don't, that I'm looking forward to just really being able to unpack with you today. So
I was just praying to God that He would give me a deep, profound voice like yours. So if I can just talk like Robert, if I can wake up in the morning and be like, Heavenly Father, in the
okay, you
name
know
of
what? Let's
it
go
just
ahead,
sounds
like
it just sounds more anointed, you know?
You know what? And let me tell y'all something about Dustin. Dustin knows my sister, and it's almost like I feel like my sister put him on to saying that because she grew up
She
with
did
me
it. She
and
did
she
it.
knew how I talked and how much I got picked on about my voice.
Oh, you have a freaking magical voice. It's anointed. Don't you
Yeah,
ever let
well,
anyone tell you otherwise.
that's you know what that's the thing about gifts that God gives us. Sometimes our gifts get torn down before we ever get to truly use them in
Say
the
it.
way in which He wants us to use them. And so all my life, my gift was people continue to try to strip my gift from me, even though I couldn't change the way I talk. I always
Say
tried
it.
to maybe mimic others. So now living in the space where I'm realizing that God encourages me through others, it's a blessing. It's a blessing because there are so many people out here trying to fight away their gift. No, I don't want that. Look, people are making fun of this, or they don't like this, and so I want to change this, or I want to abandon that. And so realizing that God had a plan for it all this time it
Say it.
encourages me every time somebody's like that. I wish I had what you have, and I'm sitting back like, well, I wish I had what you had. But it's a
Right, right.
blessing that I can realize that, you know what, God, I'll use what you gave me a long time ago.
Isn't it interesting how the enemy will know what your gift is before you know what your gift is,
Right.
and he will try to take you out. But what the enemy means for evil, God can use for good.
Exactly.
And the very
Yeah.
thing that people made fun of you for, God said, that's the very thing I'm going to use to reach people and make an impact for my kingdom.
It
It's
blows my
beautiful.
mind. It
It's
blows my
beautiful.
mind. It blows my mind every day. But you know what? Let's jump back because I want you to introduce yourself to my audience for those who are like, man, this guy, I mean, he seems to be impressive, but who is he? So who is Dustin?
So,
Based,
Dustin Stradley, I am a resident of the country of Florida, Orlando, Florida. It's its own country.
facts.
It
It
really is.
is.
Been on staff at Elevation Church for 10 years. Married to Maddie Stradley, the most amazing woman on planet Earth, for coming up on 6 years. And we have one baby girl. She is our princess, our little nugget, all the different nicknames that we call her. But Jovi Catherine Stradley, she's 19 months old, and she's so fun. She's at such a fun stage right now. So having a daughter has just brought so much more meaning and purpose to our life in a different way. It's tough, but it's also rewarding and fulfilling. So we have a full life. It's a fun life. It's a challenging life, but we're also really grateful for what God's entrusted into our care.
Right. That's beautiful. And you know, speaking from a man, a leader who has been doing this for a while. As you said, you've been with Elevation on staff for 10 years, but you're now 18 months into being a father. And that's a
Yes,
completely different season. That's like a completely different thing that you're now having to say, okay, how do I still do this and this? How,
it's
how do
real.
how do and I can only imagine. I don't want to remember, but I can only imagine what that's like to like be able to now have to like balance those two things.
It's humbling. It's humbling.
Yeah.
Even early conversations with our counselor, it's like, how do I lead multiple churches through Elevation, in addition to all the other responsibilities we have in life, but also lead my wife well, because we were so accustomed just to having us and going on dates and traveling together. But now we're raising a human being together. But my wife also works on staff at the church. How do we manage all of that? And I thought the same rhythms I had without a kid would work with having a kid. And I was wrong.
Right. Yeah.
And there was this point of frustration between Maddie and I, and where I felt tired after a long day, yet she was on all day because she also has a job, but she's trying to take care of our newborn. And my counselor gave me a little punch to the gut. That's what I love about him. And he said, well, because I didn't know how to manage it all. How do I manage all of these responsibilities? Our budget, our health, our home, our daughter, our friendships, our family, our jobs, ministry, traveling. I don't know how to do this. And he said, well, can you get up earlier? I was like, I mean, yeah, I can get up earlier, but I'm already getting up at 6 a.m. He said, can you get up earlier than 6 a.m.? I said, sure. And so I started getting up at 5:45. And I was like, oh, I have a little bit more margin in my day. Then I started getting up at 5:30. Oh, I've got even more margin in my day. Then I started getting up at 5:15. Wow, I can do so much more before anybody else even wakes up. Now it's 4:45. I don't know that I'm going to go too much earlier than that. I don't know if I'm going to get to the 4 a.m. range. We do go to bed earlier.
Okay.
But it was simply someone challenging me to manage our energy and time differently. And we all have the same amount of time. You have the same amount of time I do. I have the same amount of time you do. I see some parents who have multiple jobs plus 5 kids. And I'm having a hard time with one kid.
Yeah.
And I think surrounding yourself with those people who will lean in and challenge you to get better and to create more margin and to steward what you do have with excellence. It's not that anybody else has something I don't. It's like, no, maybe it's time to level up in stewarding what you have in your hands right now.
Right.
And we're still figuring it out.
Right.
We're still figuring it out.
Yeah, no,
and it's going to be a lifelong process.
Yeah, I was just about to say how, like, it seems like no matter how old they get, you don't ever become like a pro at it. Like, it's almost like the ladder keeps moving, where it's like, I'm almost there. And it's like, now we're going into a new grade. Now we're going into a new age. Oh, yes. And they're moving now quicker than I'm moving. And so every time you're learning new things. But it's funny because one thing I wrote down about you, because I, this episode, I actually brought some notes with me because I like to write notes down, but sometimes I already have notes on the
Leaders are learners, and Robert is a learner. He's a master learner.
I'm going to be a lifelong learner. So I've learned that as long as I'm learning, I'm growing. The second I stop learning, it's like the growth stops. Yes. And so I made it a mission to now consistently even though I for all you kids, cover your ears. I did not like school growing up. I did not enjoy school because I didn't understand that school was what was growing me. I thought that the sleep and what I ate would grow me.
Correct.
And it physically it might have, but mentally and the wisdom that I needed, it came from what I learned, the lessons I put myself in. And I even wrote down about you because I was like, when you in checking out a lot of your content, I realized, wow, there's a lot of wisdom there, which alerted me that, okay, there's a lot of stories there because you don't receive wisdom.
A lot of failure.
And you know what?
A lot of mistakes.
Yes, that is the part that a lot of people think that you woke up and you won. You were DJ Khaled. You never lost. You never failed. You just you hit it. Like, bam, I woke up and I was winning the second I woke up. And it's like, yeah, so maybe I should talk about some of the failed attempts. Maybe I should talk about some of the opportunities that I thought would just be like, man, push of a button. We're there. That I realized that nobody got to see because that was the behind the scenes that people didn't get an opportunity to envision, to see in the midst of everything that was going on. And so that's what I look forward to doing today. I look forward to just kind of knowing a little bit more about you and maybe some of the behind the scenes that is put you into the place of leadership, in the place of fatherhood, in the place of being a great husband that you are, that a lot of people are like, well, man, Dustin just woke up and he was just that guy. And it's
Right.
like, yeah, but see, Dustin has a lot of wisdom, and it wasn't because he just woke up and he was that guy.
Well, comparison is the thief of joy. Comparison kills contentment. It's easy for me to open up the Instagram app, see people who are seemingly way further ahead than I am, financially, as a parent, as a husband, as a communicator, as a leader, whatever hat you're wearing. But what I don't see is what it took to get there.
Right.
Before I was a pastor, I was in the insurance industry and I was climbing the corporate ladder, and I saw some success in the business world. But what people don't see is how many failed business attempts I had before
Right.
I stepped into that job. Or now we're leading a financial peace e-group in our church. And this is the 9th time that we've led it, Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University.
Yeah.
And my wife and I paid off over $70,000 in debt, became completely debt-free. We built up a savings account. We have a budget that we stick to consistently every day. We talk about our budget.
That's awesome.
So if I go to the grocery store and I'm checking out the groceries, babe, can you put $22 in our grocery budget? And let's see where we're at now every day. What people don't see is all the years we lived paycheck to paycheck, all the overdraft fees I paid at one point to Bank of America. The first time I put a budget together and legit had tears rolling down my face because I thought, this sucks. This is hard. I hate math. I don't know what I'm doing. The time I went to the grocery store and only had a $20 bill because we were using cash envelopes, and our grocery bill rang up to $21, and I had to tell them to put the apples back. Yeah, we don't really need the apples anyway, because that's all I had. I didn't take a debit card in. I didn't have credit cards. There is no such thing as an overnight success. Or 10 years on staff at a church. But what people don't see is I barely made it on staff. I was a maybe. I barely made it through our training program, our apprenticeship program. I felt unqualified. How can God use someone like me? Barely made it. Or I've preached on stages now in many different places. What they don't see is the first time I was given an opportunity to preach, how I royally screwed it up because of my ego and my pride.
Yeah.
So comparison is the thief of joy. It's really, ask someone their story and what it took them to get from that place to where they are now. And you'll see that whatever your goals are, or whatever you aspire to be, the mother, the leader, the communicator, the business owner, it takes failure to succeed.
Right.
As long as you learn from the failure, that's where the growth takes place.
Right. And you know what? You even said something that really stuck out when you said it. You said unqualified. And I believe in that thought, when people think of themselves as unqualified, and then they're taking their thoughts of unqualified and comparing it to other success stories, it creates this huge gap of I'm not even qualified to be in this space or to obtain this amount of joy or what they're experiencing, not knowing what it took for them to get there. But I don't even feel like I'm qualified or I'm worthy of it. And that right there, to some people, it's like a weight. And I think recently we heard this past Sunday, we heard a sermon that was talking about come out of your cave. Right. And a lot of caves of ours are this cave called I'm unqualified. I'm unworthy.
So true.
And it creates a space where even if I can see it, I'm not qualified for it.
Right.
I'm not worthy of that. I've never seen that successfully in my family.
Yes.
And so it holds us in this cave, and it keeps us in this space. And when you said that you felt unqualified based on I just barely made it, I'm sure there were certain things that were there that made you feel like, okay, I don't feel qualified because I'm standing next to these guys or these ladies that are in the same position as me, and I might just get picked if one of them fall and break their leg right now.
Right. It's so true.
And so how did that feel? Like, what was that like? And can you unpack that a little bit?
It's interesting to see how God works. I've been a pastor for 10 years, but I grew up hating church. I went to church, but I hated church. I had bad experiences in church. I was judged when I had earrings. I was judged when I wore shorts. I'm not blaming the church for how I responded, but I hated church. I didn't like Christians. I believed that there was a God. But ironically enough, now I've been a pastor for 10 years. But what people don't see is the gap between what happened there. And I rebelled. I ran as far away from God as possible. I said, I'm going to try to screw this thing up. I drank myself from morning until night for 8 years. I had depression, anxiety, went to jail twice. The second time I went to jail, when I got out, I was ready to take my life. I was done. I remember looking in the mirror and thinking, I'm disgusted with what I see in front of me. I have no value to add to anyone or this world. And I shattered that mirror and just sat there and just bawled my eyes out and said, I don't know where else to turn. Thank God my dad was a strong believer in Jesus and he didn't give up on me. It's the story of the prodigal son.
Yeah.
I came running home. My dad wasn't in the distance shaking his head in disappointment. My dad pulled out the robe. He wrapped me up, threw me a feast, put a ring on the finger. He said, our son is home. Let's throw a party. And he said, I love you. I'm here for you. You need to get back into church and surround yourself with a community of people who have faith and are making some good decisions. And so a week after I got out of jail in August of 2009, someone brought me to Elevation Church, my best friend at the time, Brett. And I said, Brett, I love you. I hate church. But because I love you, I'll come to church.
Shout out, Brett.
Even though I told him I don't do church. And Brett brought me on August 9th of 2009, Elevation Church, Uptown location.
Nice.
And I've been to church plenty of times throughout my life, but there was something different about this. The message was communicated in a way that I understood it. The worship was amazing. People were crying. It was diverse. People were shouting. They were excited to be there. I was like, wait, people are excited to be in church? I remember going to church. We all slept in church. Not just me. Everybody there slept in church. And I'm thankful now for my pastors and different leaders over the years. Thank God that they helped really build that foundation for me that I came back to once I hit rock bottom. But it was really the way that people made me feel when I showed up to that church for the first time.
Right.
They said, we don't care where you were just a couple of weeks ago. Like, we're just glad that you're here.
Right.
And they love me for who I am. And I had people like Brett and other friends who kept encouraging me. They didn't give up on me. Sometimes we just need to surround ourselves with some people who won't give up on you.
Right.
People who will walk with you through your struggle, not just celebrate you when you succeed. Hey, great job, man. You're climbing the corporate ladder. You're making a lot of money. You look great up on that stage. No, what happens when you hit rock bottom? Who's still standing?
Right. Right. And you know what?
People who didn't give up.
And okay, so first of all, shout out Brett, because Brett knew you didn't like church. He knew a little bit about you, but yet he didn't allow that to dictate what his plan was of saying, you know what, doesn't matter what your thoughts are, what my thoughts are about what you said. I know God's calling me to tell you to come to church with me. So, bro, you're going to have to come with me. He put me in the car.
He said, you don't have a car anymore. You just got arrested for the second time for drinking and driving. So get in my car.
Right.
And you're coming to church. I said,
right.
Okay.
Love that.
I don't have anywhere else to go. So.
Love that. You know what I also love, though, about you is that, and it's crazy how we get to a point in our life sometimes where we hate ourselves so much. We hate the environments we've been in that we get to that point where we're man enough to say, I need help by going to somebody who we trust, who we know, because a lot of us don't do that. We sit, we fall down, and it's heavy to get back up because everything that we've weighed ourselves down with, all the guilt, all the shame, it sits on top of us and it's heavy. I'm talking about it's heavy. So that means you got to push through that to call out for help. If you even feel like, because a lot of times our ego, our ego gets in the way of us calling out to help, because I've been that guy all the time. I was that guy for everybody else. How would I look calling out for help?
Yes.
But it's the power in calling out for help. And it's the
It
power
is.
in what God does then.
Yes.
Like how he pivots everything to where it's like, okay, so in your surrender, because it wasn't a surrender to him when you went back to your dad. It was a surrender to say that, you know what, I need help.
Yes.
I don't know what to do next. But
you don't want anyone to have to hit rock bottom to realize that.
They shouldn't.
Hopefully conversations like this can help someone before they get there.
Yes.
So thank you for being obedient and putting this together. So someone, especially men, we have a hard time asking for help.
Mm-hmm.
It's this complex of, I need to have it all together.
Mm-hmm.
When in reality, it's in our weakness that God's strength is made perfect.
Right.
And you'd be surprised how many people will respect you when you're transparent enough to say, I don't have it together. I need some help.
Right.
But there's this mentality that it's a scheme of the enemy. You're going to look so weak. What are they going to say about you?
Right.
Think of how they're going to look at you.
Right.
You're supposed to be the leader.
Right.
You're supposed to be a provider. All those different lies that come our way.
Yeah.
Think about when you talked about unqualified. Think about Moses. Moses killed a man, spent the majority of his life hiding, running, feeling the shame, feeling the guilt. God can't use someone like me, even when God showed up in very tangible ways.
Yes.
Sometimes I'm like, God, can you speak to me through a bush? Can you?
Like, yeah. I would love to experience that. Like. But you know what though? I feel like he has spoken to us. It's that we're sometimes we're too busy looking at the bushes in our lives, waiting for them to ignite, and the people are right there speaking to us. We're just too busy looking and staring off into the bushes, staring off into the sky, waiting for God to speak to us in a way that we feel deemed that he should speak to us based on what we've seen or what we believe it should look like.
That's so true. God speaks to all of us in different ways. And it's not that God isn't speaking to us. He's always speaking to us.
Mm-hmm.
But are we so distracted we're not hearing what he's saying?
Right.
That's why I encourage leaders, write everything down. Exactly what you said coming into this.
Yeah,
I got notes.
I got notes.
I've got my notebook right here. I've got my Evernote right here. I've got my notes, my iCloud notes right here. When someone speaks to you, write it down, even if you don't know what it means in the moment. Eventually, you'll start to see themes. Man, I've had 15 different people, 15 different ways, email, text message, in person, through a podcast, through a sermon, through a song, say this same thing. Is that God trying to be redundant with me because I didn't get it the first 15 times? Repetition. God speaks through repetition.
Yes.
You're exactly right. So I would encourage someone listening, clear out some of the clutter and really focus on what is God speaking to me. You can hear that through prayer. You can pick up on that through reading God's word. It's through listening intently to people in your life, trusted voices in your life. And God can speak to you through unexpected ways.
Yeah, that's good. Now, break that down a little bit, because you said clean out the clutter. Because I'm sure there are people that are listening like, okay, well, what does clutter look like in my life? What do you mean by that? I mean, like, yes, I want to have the capacity to be able to hear from him. I want to have the capacity to be able to understand and be able to jot down and be able to recognize. But what clutter could be in my life that could be keeping me from what I'm wanting to see, what I'm wanting to hear?
Sometimes it's not bad things. It can be too many good things.
That's good. Okay, go into that.
I've got to-do list on to-do list on to-do list because I'm ADHD and I need focus. So I write down everything I need to do. But if I look at this to-do list just from last week, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And this doesn't include the other 30 things I probably did that day, just normal adult responsibilities. There's only one thing on here that specifically relates to creating margin to hear from God. read Bible. Now, was that the verse of the day? And then, cool, check. Now let's get to the meetings. We've all done it.
Yes. Guilty.
Lord's Prayer as soon as I wake up. Okay, cool. Let's go to the gym. Pre-workout. Let's go. Not bad. Read the verse of the day. Say the Lord's Prayer. But do you have enough margin between your meetings to even say a prayer? That's how I know that I've got too much clutter. If I've got a meeting from 1 to 2 and then 2 to 3 and then 3 to 4 and then 4 to 5, then 5 to 6 and 6 to 7, there is no margin to hear from God. Now, can God speak through some of those people in those meetings? Sure. But most of the time, those meetings consist of agendas and tasks and responsibilities and what do we need to accomplish and strategies. And so take time to breathe. Take 10 minutes a day to just sit in silence. Silence, solitude, Sabbath.
Yeah.
Not popular in our culture.
Yes.
And I'm pretty bad at it. But over the last year and a half, God has been challenging me. If he took time to rest, he created for 6 days. We all have a purpose on this earth to create, to build something, to build our families, to build businesses, to make an impact in this world. We're creators. We're made in his image. He is the ultimate creator. But if he took time to rest after creating, and he didn't need to.
Right.
He did it to model for us that we need to take time to rest. So do you create margin each week, 24 hours to do a Sabbath, to do nothing but delight in God's creation? Well, yeah, let me get the laundry done first. Nope, don't work. Well, let me pay a couple of bills. Do it the day before. Yeah, but I need to run a few errands. Yep, do that on Thursday night before your Sabbath on Friday. But I need to, and the list of excuses goes on.
Yeah. That was crazy.
That was that over the last year, and it's been so life-giving. It feels like Christmas Day.
Right.
Once a week. And then the following 6 days, we have so much more energy and focus because we really planned, prepared, and enjoyed God's creation and time with him, communion with friends, communion with family. And then now the other 6 days, let's get back to creating.
Right. That was heavy. That just set on me when you said that. And as I listen, and it's funny because I like to stay on everybody's words, but it's almost like it just kind of road bumped me a little bit in that God has been showcasing to us how he wants us to live since the beginning of time. Since, like, a lot of people are like, yeah, but I can't create animals and I can't turn the lights on in the world. But he, in all of that, and what he showed us on that we're supposed to create, he also showed us that I don't have to rest, but I'm going to show you how to rest. That was like, whoa.
Absolutely.
That was deep. And I never said on me like that until you said that. Wow. That one, yeah. Wow.
It's
That's
convicting
heavy
for me as I even talk about it.
Yeah.
We don't rest world. It's grind all day, grind all night. It's hustle from morning till night. Always something extra to do. Let me find 6 more side hustles because I need to build up more income for whatever. Side hustle is not bad. Building a business, not bad. But do we have enough margin that we're ultimately walking with our creator, talking with our creator? Even Billy Graham himself. I don't know if this is true, but I think it is true. I could see him saying this. I read an article about Billy Graham, and Billy Graham, God used to reach millions upon millions of people for the sake of the gospel. The most influential minister of the gospel that we've seen to this date. But at the end of his life, you would think, content, fulfilled, man, look at how God used me. He said he had one regret. And his one regret was not spending more intimate alone time with God. I'm like, okay, this guy knew the Bible from front to back. I've listened to quite a few messages. He was constantly preaching the gospel, ministering to others. And God used him in a remarkable way.
Right.
But his one regret, man, just to be close to God, just to be more intimate with him. Just us. Not constantly, what can I do for God, but how can I be with God?
Right.
And we can be so busy, especially as a pastor, but this is applicable to anyone listening to this. We can be so busy trying to do great things for God or great things for our family, we're neglecting the great things God wants to do in us
And the greatest
and with us.
relationship. Yes. Yeah, with us. Yeah. And that's one thing that I had to learn over this past year, that the greatest relationship I have, I sometimes put to the side to make sure all the other relationships in my life are in good
Same,
standings.
same.
And it's like, okay, wait, without that relationship, that's the relationship that fills me up so that I can pour into these relationships. So why is it that I find myself waking up and saying good morning to everybody else, but I don't spend that time waking up to say good morning to God and giving him that time to
Say
say,
it.
what is it that you
So
want
real.
me to do today? And it is, because it convicts me every time when I just do what you said earlier. I read the verse of the day, bam, I'm good. Let's go. Let's get the day going. But I don't know who was, and I wish I could cite the person, but somebody at one time said, imagine if somebody had a conversation with you, they spoke to you, they wanted your input, but then immediately they got busy and said, okay, cool, I gotta go. Look, we'll talk later.
Ooh.
I feel like it convicted me because it made me see that that's how I do God all the time. I pray, hey God, I need more resources. I need more time. I need more of this. I need you to use me in a mighty way. And I go on about my day after I pray what I need and thank him, and then I'm gone. And I don't actually stop to say, and I've made it a mission now to say, I'm going to pray and meditate. Because when I meditate, I
Yes.
push away all the clouds of thoughts, everything that wants to come next. Hey, look, it's morning time. Go ahead and get your phone out. Look at your emails. No. We're gonna pause everything, and I'm gonna sit here, and I'm going to allow him to now answer.
Yes.
I spoke. Now I'm going to
Beautiful.
give him an opportunity to answer.
Beautiful.
And normally he answers a lot when I'm getting ready in the bathroom, because I
Right.
normally quiet all my thoughts. And what he has done, man, I tell people, if this house ever falls down, that bathroom's got to stay standing, because I'm at least going to sit in that space, because this podcast came out of
Yes.
that bathroom.
Wow.
A lot of things. I just had a recent conversation with a guy that came out off of God putting him on my mind in the bathroom. Right. And what happened in that conversation?
Right.
So I realized
it's a space where you, technology aside, distractions aside, small, isolated, I get it. It's like some of my best thinking and time with God in the shower. I'm not taking my phone in the shower.
Right.
I'm not taking books into the shower. I'm not taking my computer into the shower. I'm not worried about I'm not eating food in the shower.
Right.
I'm not worried about clothes in the shower. I mean, it's just, that's my time to, okay, wow, let me get alone with God and get alone with my thoughts and let him download some things to me. And then when I get out of the shower, write it down immediately before I lose it.
Yeah, no, so true. And for some people, it's the car. It's the car right in. They choose to not turn music on. But no, that's awesome. So I'm gonna flip over. I'm gonna go a different direction real quick here.
Flip it.
Me and you, we were together in Orlando, and we both experienced a message that I don't know if that we will ever be able to hear again, but we can't unhear or unsee what happened during that message that was so deep, because it made us look back into ourselves. It made us, and it was about, it was, I think what was the title of the message? Leviathan, Let Me Go.
Right.
And for a lot of people who are listening, they're like, okay, what is a Leviathan? I'm just going to give you a quick, Leviathan was a serpent that Stephen Furtick, and he was right. When he said this, he was like, you probably never read this verse. Never, and probably would have never read that verse. It just wouldn't have stood out. Would you agree?
Correct.
Okay. So I'm going to let you take it from here and share a little bit about what that message spoke to you, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. I was looking through my notes on this recently, because I had some good dialogue with Peter, our campus pastor in Orlando, right after. And it's one thing to think about the different Leviathans in our life, the different things that may be holding us back from experiencing God's grace.
Yes.
Anxiety, depression, distracted by certain relationships in our life. We all have different Leviathans. And we were all in this room. There's thousands of youth. The first time I heard it, chanting, Leviathan, let me go, Leviathan. And I thought, I wish I would have heard this message when I was a teenager. I had so many Leviathans that I was holding on to or were holding on to me from moving forward in my walk with God. But then I was convicted on the way home. Dustin, you still have Leviathans. You still care way too much about what people think. Your anxiety is not a curse. It's not a thorn in your side that I won't remove. It's you overthink everything. You're overthinking the teaching you did yesterday. You're overthinking the conversation you just had with your wife. You're overthinking how you're going to come across in that meeting. And self-awareness can be a good thing.
Right.
But it can also be paralyzing if you take it to a certain extreme.
Yeah.
And when you begin to fixate on, I need their approval. Well, I got up and communicated, and I didn't have 10 people come running up to me to tell me that was really great. Does that mean it didn't matter? Did God use it? So the Leviathan for me, there's still somewhere within me that's still longing for affirmation from my wife, affirmation from the leaders in my life. I'm doing this for their approval. But why? Where does that come from? And we could spend the next 20 minutes having a counseling session where I can dissect different things throughout my life, insecurities, events that happen that created maybe some emptiness, that in reality, it's like, no, God is pleased with me. God has already approved of you.
Yes.
If I'm still seeking the approval of man, I'm not a servant of Christ, as God's word says. So that Leviathan, just to be able to name it, write it down, and say, I know what my Leviathan is. Let me go.
Right.
And that's the first step to change, is awareness.
Yes. That's so good. And you are spot on, bro. Yes.
If someone listening today would just take time this week, 15 minutes, write down all the Leviathans in your life, and then dissect, where did that come from? Why do I have that overwhelming anxiety every night when I try to go to sleep? Why do I feel certain ways when I'm around people and I begin to change who I am so that I can fit in with that group? Write down those Leviathans, attempt to dissect where they came from, and you might need help doing this. That's why I go to counseling.
Yeah. No, that's so good. I'm so glad you said that. Because some things are so heavy that we don't know how to put the words to where it came from, how it makes us feel. And so we can maybe recognize it, like me too. And that I sometimes I'm seeking the approval. I even right before this episode, I found myself like, okay, does this sound right? Is this, and so we start to look outward instead of saying, God, you know what? If I trust you, if I seek you, you're going to put the words there. You're going to lead me in the right direction. You're going to provide me the information. And in the end, you're going to approve it.
Yes.
Because if I seek the approval of everybody else, who knows? Maybe they're in a rush. Maybe they don't have the time to come back. It's just like the parable where the 3 men were healed, but only one came back. Imagine if you healed tons of people. Imagine if you touched tons of people, but one person came back. What would that say to you? But it's in being able to, like you said, recognize those things and then unpack them. And sometimes it takes more than one person to unpack a toy box. It takes more than one to unpack what you spent years packing in there. You packed it all. So maybe you might need some help unpacking it with somebody who's not necessarily in your story, but wants to help you understand your story.
Absolutely.
And so that was so good. That's so important.
And inviting the right people in to help you unpack it. Not the voices who say, well, hey, you should be bitter towards her.
Yeah.
You deserve better than that. So, whoa. I don't know that aligns with what God, I don't remember ever seeing God say things like that. But having people to say, hey, I hear you, man. That really is tough. I understand why you would feel that way. Where do you think that comes from? Da, 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 da. And then, well, what can we do to get better? How can we grow? And now what steps can I take? And we think that when we walk into a room, everyone's looking at us and talking about us. But reality is everyone's so insecure because they're fighting a battle we know nothing about. They're not thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves.
Say that. Say that. Yes.
It's freeing to know that you aren't the center of attention everywhere you go.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's battling their own fight.
That's it. That is spot on it. You could drop the mic on that because it's so true. No matter how prestigious this person is. I mean, you could look up to so many people, but we don't know the battles they're fighting with where they're at. Maybe you're like, well, yeah, he's not fighting a financial battle like me. Yeah, but he's fighting a battle if he doesn't feel good enough and he could have all the money he has. He still can't buy freedom. And so,
right.
And that's one that I realize that no matter how much you obtain, freedom can't be bought with a cost.
Right.
And so, yeah, you're right. Battles that people are fighting, if we could only see them, if we could only get like a preview, like a movie preview of like, ooh, wow, that's heavy. Okay.
Yes.
Like, and so if we could understand the battles that people are fighting, but a lot of the battles that people are fighting, they stay inside their head. They stay inside the four walls because they're scared to sit down and talk about it. They're ashamed of what they've done. They know what it feels like. They carry the shame, but it's like, I can't share this shame with you. I mean, if you looked at me the way I look at me, I could only imagine like what that, and that goes into the overthinking of like, if they know, what if they know? Mm-hmm. What if they see me? What if they recognize it?
And that's what you and I were talking about right before this podcast, was put yourself in a room with people that when you share something you're struggling with, they say, man, I got your back. Like, that's tough.
Yeah.
People who don't just celebrate you when you're doing well and you've got a smile on your face and your Instagram looks perfect, but people who reach out and say, yo, you good, dude? Like, haven't heard from you in a while. That's why we talk about small groups at church. And church is not filled with perfect people. The church is filled with broken people. So you're going to find people in every church community that are going to judge you for your issues and your challenges. But don't let one person's opinion cause you to disconnect from the power of what can happen when you have a strong community of people who will walk through your struggles with you. We need that.
Yes.
We need this conversation. We make each other better. And even back to the two greatest commandments, when Jesus was being tested, he said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and love thy neighbor as yourself. Well, if you think about it, when we're constantly in our head thinking about ourselves, how do we come across? Am I going to look good to this person? We're not doing either one of those things. But if we can fixate on God and others, it really develops a compassion for the people that I come in contact with. So now I'm not thinking about how do I come across when I step into this room, or was that question stupid in that meeting? Because I've had plenty of those insecurities and thoughts rattling around my head. But in reality, like, man, I wonder what they're going through right now. Like the way that customer service, like, he lashed out at me. He was very rude. But I wonder what battle he's fighting behind the scenes. Let me take a moment to pray for them. Love the Lord your God with all your heart. I'm going to talk to God about that person. Love your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah.
And it's really fixing your focus on something other than you.
Right. More of him, less of us.
Yeah.
No, that's good. I find myself saying that a lot to calm my nerves sometimes. More of you, less of me, because in the anxiety and nerves I feel sometimes, a lot of it comes from me thinking about me. Like you said, how do I look right now? How am I going to come off? And then I turn around and I love on people. And I fail to recognize that, like, wow, I gave them all the love I had. But even before I got here, I didn't love myself the same way. How is that? Why is that? Why can't I provide myself the same thing I'm giving them? And I'm looking at it as I'm giving it to them. And it's like, wow, I am really, like, I was so nice to them. I was so kind to them. I spoke so many good words. But I turned around and got in the car and looked at myself in the mirror and was like, you're stupid. And I can't believe you said that. What's wrong with you? And it's like, Wow. Wait.
That is so real. I've done that too many times. You've done that.
Mhm.
But many people listening right now, you're so good at encouraging everyone else, but you're terrible at encouraging yourself. But when you begin to see yourself the way God sees you,
Mm.
and you begin to
Yes.
speak what you speak over others, over you, that changes everything. It changes the way you walk into your home at the end of the workday. It
Yeah.
changes the way you walk into a room. And people will begin to see there's something different about you when you're walking in the authority of God. Not a cockiness, not an arrogance, but you're walking in confidence, knowing that the same spirit that raised Jesus from the dead is in you. And now
Mhm.
you're not self-sabotaging by taking all the lies from the enemy and all the crap you've heard from other people and just rehearsing that, playing that soundtrack over and over and over again. If I played the soundtrack of everything that's been spoken over me in my life, fourth grade, I remember the girl looking at me and I thought she was checking me out. I was trying to be impressive. And I don't remember her name, but I looked at her and she was like, "You're weird." I was like, "Oh, okay." It's not, didn't expect that, right?
Right.
Different family members, different friends, uh, the different things that people spoke. If I just sit there and play that soundtrack all day, we're going to miss out on the true potential that God
Mhm.
has in store for you.
Yeah.
But if you begin to see yourself the way God sees you,
Mm.
as loved, as redeemed, as forgiven, as his child, Gideon, mighty warrior. No, 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 God, you must have the wrong guy.
Get
He's like,
it.
nah. He's like, I didn't screw this one up. You're the mighty warrior I want to use. Moses, but I have a speech impediment. Pick somebody else. He's like, well, no, I can use your speech impediment, and I plan to, but if you're so insecure, I'll send somebody else to help you, but I'm still going to use you. Yeah, but I killed a guy. Think about it. Moses spent so much of his life running from a decision he made because he
Mm.
was living in shame. But in the Bible, there's only one verse that mentions Moses killing a man. But if it were up to people, they'd write a whole book about it.
On repeat.
Moses the murderer.
Yep. Yep. And it's funny
God gave
how we
God gave it one verse.
right. It's funny how we like to even okay, so it was never they think about Thomas. What do we call him? We
Doubting
call him
Thomas.
Doubting Thomas. We give people names based on like we could literally give everybody in the Bible a name that remind them of their past transgressions, their past shame. We could give everybody a name, which in turn, because we're used to giving ourselves names. But you know
Yes.
something you just said that really hit me, and it was like, yo, that's the tool. It's almost like everybody has that that phone a friend thing or that last call thing when in trouble do this. And I recognize that one of the biggest tools that you hit on earlier was that there are times when you forget who you are. There are times when things are too much, but when you have a community, even if you have one brother in your life that can remind, because I even wrote this down as a note from something I listened to that you said when you said it earlier, have people in your life that will hurt with you, people
Yes.
who will cry with you, but more importantly, people who will remind you who you truly are. And as I like to say, remind you whose you are,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's
Come on.
in that even when I'm not feeling it, even when I can't encourage myself, as the person who likes to encourage people, who likes to pour into people, I like to keep, and I keep a band of brothers, but even if you got two
Right.
that you can call, you can send a group text to, brothers, I'm hurting right now.
Right.
I am down and out. I'm going to be vulnerable and let you guys know that even though my life has looked perfect and I've had it all together, I'm knee deep in debt and they're talking about taking everything from me. And brothers who can come alongside you in
Exactly.
your hurt, in your brokenness, in your defeat, as it may look, to remind you who you are, not
Right.
not what you possess, not how
Right.
cool you were when you had all that, but
Right.
who you are, regardless of
Right.
all that. That can
Right.
go, but who you are doesn't change. Who God
Exactly.
sees you as doesn't change. And
Right.
I just realized in something you said that it was like, that's one of the key pieces to my life. Like
Mm.
without that piece, I am on my own trying to encourage or remind
Yes.
or pray on my own. And it's wow, it's crazy how many thoughts are running into my head right now. It's
I
like,
get it.
God, you
I
can't
get
give me
it.
all of it right now. I mean, like, yes, but like just realizing that even when we say where two or more are gathered,
Yes.
it doesn't say if you're just one gathered together, and that doesn't change the fact that God's still not in the midst, but where two or more are gathered,
Right.
there is God.
You're not meant to do life alone. You're not
There it
meant to do
is.
life in isolation. God created Adam and then said, it's not good to be alone. Here's Eve. We're meant for community. We're meant for relationship with him, relationship with others. Love God, love people. Do life with people who build you up, not tear you down.
Right.
And too much of our world, we're ripping each other apart, tearing each other down through the comments, through the looks, through the thoughts that we have, tearing people down every day in my head when I walk by, like, yo, what was that? And God's like, who are you to judge that? That's my daughter. That's my son. And when you begin to see people the way God sees them, not just yourself,
There it
it
is.
changes everything.
Yes.
It's like the
Yes.
woman with the issue of blood. She was known as the woman with the issue.
Mm.
You don't see a name until she,
So
after
true.
12 years of suffering, she has an encounter with Jesus. It's the only place in the Bible he heals her physically, but it's the only place in the Bible that he calls a woman daughter.
Yes.
The woman with the issue, daughter. He changed not just her condition, he changed her identity.
Ooh.
And
Hey, that is
some
so.
of you have experienced a miracle and God set you free from the alcohol addiction. He set you free from that bad relationship. He set you free from some things. But you're still labeling yourself according to what you did. And you need to hear this. You are not what you did. You are who God says you are. You were his son. You were his daughter. And even in that same passage, he healed her. He said, daughter, go, be freed from your suffering. She'd already been healed, though. She was healed as soon as she touched the garment of Jesus. But after that, he says, daughter, go, be freed from your suffering. She still
So
didn't know who
good.
she was. He said, but before you go, yes, I gave you the physical healing for free. You're welcome. But you need to know who you are.
Right.
And he spoke to her identity.
Okay. So hold on. Whew, man, I was about to package this up and get ready to like, okay, so wait a minute. We got a little bit of time. So wait, that was heavy. Okay. So we're in a society right now where people who are fighting towards sobriety, when they go to these classes, the first thing they normally tell them, because this is something we were talking about recently, how they're like, okay, you have to recognize that you are an alcoholic, because in
Right.
recognizing that you're recognizing you're not in denial. So
Correct.
they frame it as that, okay, well, you can't be in denial and say, well, no, I'm not an alcoholic. So they say that you have to put that title on yourself, because if you're in denial, then that's the first step. And so I recognized that I was at a retreat one time with two guys who deemed themselves alcoholics. And they even
Right.
said it, even though I'm an alcoholic, God's still going to use me. And I recognized later on, I unpacked that and I was like, wow, it's crazy how they were told that they have to be accountable by recognizing what they are and what they've done. But the truth is that's not who they are. That's
Right.
what they had done.
Yes.
And so many people are out here stuck to what they've done, and they call it accountability by saying, but this is who I am.
And I struggled with alcoholism for 8 years. I've now been sober for 14.
Nice.
But when someone, I've had people say, oh man, it's awesome to hear that you're an alcoholic, but I said, no, I'm not. I struggle with alcoholism. They say, yeah, but you don't still go to AA. And I'm not saying, some people may need to go to AA for the rest of their life. I think it's a great
Right.
program, a
It
lot of great
is.
resources. Go get help. Go freaking get help.
Yes, it
Yes,
is.
pray that God
Yes.
will remove the alcoholism, or that God will remove whatever addiction you may have or whatever challenge you may have, whatever struggle, but go get help. But that's not who I am.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I did.
Right.
I failed, but I'm not a failure. I screwed up, but I'm not forever just a screw up.
And I think that's what changed my life. That's what saved my life, of recognizing this is what I've done. This is even
Yes.
how some people remember me. This is
Yes.
how people still may label me. But
Yes.
I am answering to a God who doesn't have, cheater, Robert the
Mm.
cheater, Robert the manipulator, Robert
Yes.
the liar,
Yes.
Robert the thief.
Mm.
He remembers me exactly how he put me here. He needs
Yes.
me to remember how he put me here,
Say
because
it.
it's in the
Say it.
power of me recognizing how he put me here that I get back to who he made me to be, and
Yes.
not who
Yes. And
I've
yes.
been, not wrestling with that of like, yeah, but I mean, like, I can't go back to the qualified thing. I'm not qualified to do this, God. If you
Moses
had
the
seen my life,
murderer. It's like,
yeah,
or Moses the man of God.
that's it. That's it. Man, I couldn't leave this episode without, like, because you opened that can and it was like, oh, wait a minute, we got because I recognize how a lot of men, women, people in general struggle with these titles, and it's in a title. It's in a title that wakes a person up every day to strive to either run from the title
Mm.
or live by the title.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some titles are heavy.
Yeah.
And first of all, congratulations on all the titles that you have recognized didn't belong to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Titles that became a part of your patterns based on maybe past trauma, past things that you've been through, that said, okay, hey, this will help you cope with that. This will help you live
Right.
through that. This will help you work through that.
Right.
Not telling you that, hey, in the meantime, you're going to probably carry that for the rest of your life.
Mm.
But congratulations on all the titles you were able to lay down to be able to be who God made you to be. And I appreciate your vulnerability today and you sharing the things you share with us today, because it takes a person recognizing a lot of times that that's not who I am, sometimes before they can even talk about it.
Yeah. Right.
But even when you're carrying a title, sometimes, even when you still believe it, talking about it is a way to help you lay that title down when you recognize that the people who care about you, who are actually there for you, don't see you that way.
It's powerful. It's powerful to say, okay, I've got the thorn, and if it's not going to go away, like, I can't change what I did, but I can put it to work.
Mm.
And I was so insecure the first time I shared my story, and everybody has a different story.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to have a junkie to Jesus story to be used by God.
Yes.
My story is not going to connect with everyone, but you could be listening to this right now, and you went to church your whole life. You didn't do anything super crazy. Of course, you're not perfect. Nobody is. But you'll be able to connect with someone else who went to church their whole life, didn't do anything crazy, more than, oh, I was addicted to drugs and almost killed myself. It's like, okay, God can use me to reach those people too, but God wants to use you to reach the people in your sphere of influence. So there's people that you and I won't be able to connect with, that someone listening to this will be able to connect with, whatever their story may be. My dad, never a drinker, never did anything crazy, just a pretty, consistent, good life, always loved Jesus. He had his struggles, of course. My dad has led more people to Christ. He just retired after 45 and a half years of loading tanker trucks for a paint company, a chemical company. And he had truckers coming in from all over the nation. And he was leading people of different religions to convert from their religion to following Jesus. He was leading people who didn't know anything about God to filling up the tanker truck, praying over them while they're in the front seat. They're giving their life to Jesus. Your ministry is where you are. You don't have to stand on the stage. You don't have to have a microphone. You don't have to be active on social media. Your ministry is your school. Your ministry is your family. Your ministry is that grocery store. Your ministry is that coffee shop. Your ministry is where you are. And God wants to use you where you are, exactly like you are. And as you continue to share your story, God's going to get the glory for that.
Mm-hmm.
And God will continue to mold you into the next best version of you. But God can use you right now too.
Yes.
Unqualified, broken, jacked up, messed up. God will use
Yes.
you right now.
All of it. Yes, he will. Yes, he.
Mm.
I'm a testament to that. So
Same.
if you've read my story, if you listen to Dustin's story, you know that we're not making these stories up just to sell you this perfect package of and God will clean it all up and you. No, he didn't wait till they gave me the title of this. They didn't wait till God didn't wait till they put Dustin on stage to say, now I'll start using you. No, he
Yep.
began to use you that day you walked in that church. That day your friend took you in there. He was like, let's go. If you surrender to me, I'm going to show you something that's far greater than what you've been doing. Yes. And I always imagine it almost like, I know people like to always have the little meme where they're like, somebody's like, oh, you don't think I can do that? Man, hold my beer. I imagine God just being like, wait a minute. You don't think I can clean you up? Somebody hold my water.
Watch what I can do.
Watch what I can do. Y'all listen to me. And this story is going to be so great that people can't overlook my glory. They can't overlook my grace and my mercy in that person's life because you feel like he didn't deserve it. He doesn't feel like he deserves it, but I know he deserves it. I know he deserves it. So it's like, that gets me pumped up. Yeah, I was about to say, it gets me pumped up because it's like, yo, there's so many people that feel like they're not deserving of it. And if everybody else feels that way, the beauty is you got a God who put you here with a plan and a story already written out. But the question is purpose. Yes. And the question is do you want to see it his way or do you want to see how everybody else sees you, how you may see yourself? Right. It's up to you. It's up to you. Do you want to walk in his story or you want to walk in this story that may have, it's burned down. It looks bad. I don't blame you for wanting to just call it mulligan, but maybe let's see what God has for you, because I think we've all gotten to a place. I think we can both agree. We got to a place where we're like, all right, well, I've screwed this up completely, ruined this. Mm-hmm. What's next? What else? Because based on the way this looks, I'm ready to just to throw it away. I'm ready to ball up this life and throw it in the trash can. And I recognize that God breathes life back into what you have considered to be done.
Yes, exactly.
He will breathe life. He still has a robe that he wants to put on you. He still has a ring he wants to put on you. He still has celebrations he wants to do with you. Exactly. He still has people he wants to reach through you. Yes. The murderer. Yes, the alcoholic. Yes, the cheater. Yes, the person who did everything that he feels that they're unworthy. And it's like
the judgmental person.
Yes, the gossiper. We could go on for days. We could cover everything.
Not always something big. It can be the small things.
Yeah.
Just quit overthinking it and start taking action. Overthinking is just another excuse that we have in our tool belt. And the best way I get out of my head is just take massive action. I don't feel worthy to be used by God. I don't feel qualified to be used by God. Why am I still wrestling with these insecurities this far in the game? You know what? I don't feel encouraged right now. How can I encourage others? But the Bible, specifically talking about generosity, when you refresh others, you will be refreshed.
There it is.
So the times I'm least encouraged, that's when I need to pull out my phone and send about 10 voice memos to say, I'm proud of you. Let me pray over you real quick. And typically I'm encouraged in return. So some of you need to get out of your head and take action this week. Buy somebody a coffee. See if that doesn't feel good. Help your elderly neighbor mow their lawn. Yes, we're still mowing lawns in Florida. It's very hot. Mowing it like
we're doing it here still too.
Mowing every other day. Help someone this week. Help that guy in the wheelchair get across the road. Help that person put gas in their tank. Give them a bottle of water if they're standing out in the 100-degree heat in Orlando. Do something.
Right.
Just show the acts of love that God has called you to show. And you'll be surprised when you put your focus on others in the right way and serving others and not just thinking about yourself, how God will encourage you in return.
Yeah.
I heard a motivational speaker say it like this, and I thought this was well articulated. Help enough people in life get what they want, and you'll get what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I interpreted that is continue to give to others. God's going to take care of all your needs. He's going to provide for you. You don't have to worry about that. And it's powerful when you give somebody something you need, how God will give you what you need in return. Or give someone what they need, God will give you what you need in return.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I love that. And you're so right. I can't speak enough about that, but you're so right. So true. Well, brother, I appreciate you sitting down with me today. I appreciate you taking the time out. And it's funny. I normally thank my group, my staff, my group that helps me put together these episodes and stuff. But you know what? I want to thank alongside them. I want to thank my sister for not only being in the community that you're in there in Florida, but making sure that she didn't let this episode, like, I'm going to make sure they get to, like you, even when we were in Florida, she was like, hey, look, there's my campus pastor. Hold on, come with me. We're going to go and it's just orchestrating a lot of this. I love her so much. I appreciate all she's done for encouraging me, for being in my corner. Yes.
And you're an amazing man of God. Thank you for doing this podcast. Thank you for being a light to so many who are living in darkness, being a hope to those who are hopeless. Well, and if you're listening right now, share this with somebody. Don't withhold it to yourself. Let somebody else be encouraged with what just encouraged you. Send a simple link over to someone this week. God can use that to save a life. God can use that to impact a life. And thank you, Robert, for being obedient and just making yourself available. I'm sure it was uncomfortable. It's been difficult. It's hard. How do I do this? Why am I doing this? But you keep showing up. You keep hitting record. You keep putting those headphones on. You keep using that magical anointed voice of yours. And God's going to use it to impact a lot of people, as he already has.
I appreciate that, brother. And I couldn't do this without you. So I thank you again. I thank everybody for listening today. Hey, I hope you guys come back for another great episode. They're all like this. So if you're wondering if I don't know if they're all like this, they're all impactful in a different way. And I appreciate him sharing his story today and encouraging me and you today. So, hey guys, you be great. And we'll talk to you on another episode. Thank you again. Oh, actually, whoa, wait a minute. Hold up. Stop.
What?
Whoa, I'm closing up the episode. Brother, wait a minute. How can people reach you?
Social media, Dustin Stradley, DustinStradley, Instagram, Facebook.
Right. Okay. And I'm following him on both. So if you want to just jump on mine, if you're looking for him and just
let me know how I can pray for you, and really hope that God will do some great things and believe that he will in your life over the next few months and years to come.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. Thanks again. You guys be great now. Now we're really going to head out. Thanks so much, everyone. Thank you again, brother.
See you guys.
Love you, man.
Thank you. All right, love you.
We appreciate you listening today and hope that if you enjoyed this episode, you'll like and subscribe and also listen to past episodes. We hope to bring you great future content as well. Please comment your thoughts on this episode as well as leave any prayer requests below so that this community can pray alongside you. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook at God's Glory and Men's Real Stories.
Brothers, we understand how the thoughts of even facing your own past and current story and the pain and hurt that come along with this is no easy task. But you're not alone, as you hear in these episodes. Nor has God forgotten you or left your side, as he's in it with you, fighting alongside you through the storms of life. He loves and has already forgiven you, no matter what you have done, and he wants a relationship with you. Your healing, freedom, and growth are important to God and to us as well. Maybe you're considering giving up or need someone to talk to. Here are a few resources that exist that we hope can shine a light into that dark place you're in. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline number is 1-800-273-8255. If you need support but are not in crisis, consider reaching out to a warm line with individuals who would love to talk with you. Speaking to someone on these calls is typically free and confidential and run by people who understand what it's like to struggle in life. Find a local number by going to warmline.org.